Hey there, it's David, the ADHD LGPC, and today we're talking about why it's important to start therapy sooner rather than later, brought to you by this week's very busy calendar. So, why do we want you to start therapy as soon as possible? Well, the first thing is that it takes an average of 6 weeks from when you call a center to be able to getting an appointment, that first appointment with that therapist. And so during that 6 weeks, a lot can go wrong, and you don't want to be in crisis when you're going into therapy. Now, the reason I say that is reason number two is that learning new skills is difficult when you're in crisis. You want to ideally start therapy before you're in crisis. That way, when something happens, or you can tell, like, hey, my mental health isn't great right now, I can tell it's going down. That's when you should start therapy, not when it's hitting bottom. Now, of course, when you're at that low point, of course you can go to therapy. I'm not saying you shouldn't. However, if you can see a therapist sooner than that, it's really beneficial, especially because learning the new skills. As I said, it's hard for a person to learn new skills when they're in crisis. There's a window of tolerance with stress, and when you're outside of that optimal window of, let's say you're too stressed, you're at that 9 or a 10, it's hard to learn new skills. In addition, building rapport with your therapist takes time. When you first go in and see a therapist, it's not always the easiest to suddenly tell them everything that's going on. Sometimes you have to spend a few weeks getting to know your therapist. Do you trust your therapist? Is that someone you get along with, someone you could build rapport with? And if you already have that rapport built, it's so much easier for when you're hitting those low points to be able to really address what's going on. Also, it's been shown that there are better outcomes in general when you see a therapist before you're in crisis. The time it takes to recover when you're in crisis is a bit longer because first you have to de-escalate, then learn the skills, and then be able to apply it to, okay, what do I need to do differently? What things do I need to challenge? And so ideally, starting therapy as soon as possible is the best thing you can do. And if you're someone who's asked yourself, well, maybe I'm not sick enough to have therapy, there's no prerequisite. If nothing else, you have someone to talk to, and that's great. And so there's no point you're too good, like doing too well to go to therapy. If nothing else, also, you can use a preemptive measure of like, okay, I know a lot of stressful stuff is coming up, or I've just been feeling a little off lately. Going to therapy can be incredibly beneficial to even stop crises from beginning. So overall, once again, why is it important to see a therapist as soon as possible? Well, first, better outcomes. Second, learning new skills is much easier when you're not in crisis. Third, building rapport is much easier also when you have time to do it, when there isn't some fire burning at the same time. And lastly, it takes about 6 weeks to get into therapy. So if you're hitting crisis now and you have to wait 6 weeks to get in, you'll probably be in the midst of things when you finally get in. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.